Welcome to Your Future Starts Now, the go-to podcast for extraordinary women who are ready to step into their next chapter with authentic confidence. I'm your host, Gia Lacqua, empowerment coach, motivational speaker, children's book author, and girl mom. Whether you're a corporate powerhouse or an entrepreneur, this show is designed for you. Your Future Starts Now is more than just a podcast. It's a movement towards rewriting the rules of success for high-achieving women. Are you ready to get unstuck and step into your next chapter? If so, you're exactly where you need to be. Your future starts now. Welcome to Your Future Starts Now, the podcast dedicated to helping high-achieving women redefine success. I'm your host, Gia Lacqua, and do I have a very special guest for you today? Today, I have the absolute honor of sitting down with a woman whose career has spanned decades, whose talent has made a lasting impact on the entertainment industry, and whose personal journey of resilience is nothing short of inspiring. You may know Nicole Eggert from Charles in Charge, Baywatch, and countless other TV and film projects. But beyond the spotlight, she's a devoted mother, a storyteller, and advocate who continues to show up with strength and authenticity, even in the face of life's biggest challenges. Nicole, welcome to the show. I am truly grateful to have you here with us
That
today.
was such a nice introduction. Thank you so much. It's nice to be here.
I'm excited to chat with you today. So, before we dive in, I just, some of our listeners may or may not know, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge something that's incredibly important and personal to you. And in 23, you were diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer, a battle that no one ever expects to face. And you've been incredibly open about your journey, not just for yourself, but to raise awareness for others. And in the middle of all of this, you've been producing the Baywatch Docuseries, which we'll get to in just a minute. But you've said that sort of gave you a renewed sense of purpose. And so I would love to know, can you share what it's been like for you to balance that personal battle while still putting, your energy into something creative and meaningful?
Well, when I actually got my diagnosis in October and of 2023, I just really immersed myself in the world of cancer and what I could do, what was going to happen, what are my choices, and learning so much about it. But there comes a point where suddenly that's all your world is. And I needed some normalcy. So, continuing to do the documentary was first on my list because we had been doing it already for 4 years. We were 4 years in, and it definitely gave me a break and brought me back to when life was much more normal and had a different kind of purpose. So, it was a really lovely balance for me, and being a mother, also, when you have young kids, there's not, you have to step away from what you're going through and still be mom and, run the show, so to speak, and make everything still happen as smoothly and seamlessly as possible. So those were sort of my reliefs from the cancer talk and cancer thoughts and cancer world.
Yeah, I can imagine it's all consuming.
It really
right?
is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I appreciate you sharing that. I think, the purpose and the passion and the love surrounding you, I imagine must have been a huge support in going through that battle and that
Yeah,
journey.
it's and it's strange because in your close personal world, a lot of people have different reactions to it, and you kind of lose a lot of friends in the process as well, which I found fascinating. But the public and strangers and other cancer patients and survivors and came and surrounded me, and lifted me up and really kind of showed me the light and the way, and sharing their stories and their experiences and things that work for them and don't work for them. And it just, I couldn't have done it without it. It's such a tight knit world and community, and it's a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It shows you the power of those communities.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. So, talking about the docuseries, as we know, Baywatch became a global phenomenon that really shaped pop culture. And you recently produced after Baywatch, A Moment in the Sun, which I recently had a chance to check out on Hulu. Um, and it was amazing. I will say it made me emotional. And to be honest, truth be told, you and I are both straight shooters, so I feel like I can say this. I was never a huge Baywatch fan. I mean, I watched some episodes, and I knew of it. I mean, now Charles in Charge, that's a different that's a different story. But it still made me very emotional when I heard the stories coming through, the individual interviews, and it was incredibly powerful. But I would love to just start with, like, what inspired you to do this project, and what do you really hope for people to take away that maybe they didn't know before?
Well, I think you really kind of nailed why I wanted to do it. That's exactly why, because it was with Baywatch, it was this show that was kind of campy and not taken too seriously. And, it was always like the same stories regurgitated over and over about the people in the cast. And it was always just this slew of like red bathing suits and hot bodies with big hair. And, it was people were interchangeable, and it just was a brand, and you didn't really get to know the individuals. And there's some amazing stories in there. And people's reason for wanting to be a part of the show. And, it really kind of, for all the women, it was so empowering, which, in the media, they spun it to be, anti feminism, and it wasn't. It was very much, women in power, women getting paid the same and doing the same job as men, and just everybody looking great while doing it. And it's, yeah, there's just so many success stories and people's journeys before the show, during the show, how it changed their lives and where they are now, because it's many, many years later, it's lifetimes later. And I just wanted people to see all the good stuff that they never got to see about Baywatch and the people involved in creating it. That was missing. And I felt like that was such a shame. And it was sort of a swan song also at the same time, to acknowledge the 35-year anniversary of it. And sort of, it was like a now or never, this is meet everybody. We lost somebody during, right after it was released. And these things are just monumental. And so, we lost Michael Newman. And if we hadn't done this, we wouldn't have been able to interview him and hear his story and what an important piece of the puzzle he was to the show. And yeah, just you get to know people as who they are and not just what they look like.
It's beautiful. And there's something you said at the very beginning of the first episode that really hit home for me. You talk about how on the outside everything looked perfect, right? Everyone was beautiful and famous and living what seemed to be the dream. But behind the scenes, no one really saw the person underneath it all. I think the words you used were, there was no real truth to people's journeys.
Yeah.
And I think so many people, especially the women listening, can relate to that.
Yeah. Yes. And, and I think it's important too, because they did a lot of media play where they would pit the females against each other. And that was all just made
Sure.
up, and it wasn't real. And in fact, everybody really supported each other on that show. And, that's just what sold back then, was the chaos, and the drama. So they would conjure up things. And, it's good to let everybody finally see that those days are behind us. We're more into supporting and lifting each other up. So let's tell the real story of what it was really like on set there.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the vulnerability and the honesty is so important too, because to your point, what people see on the surface is usually not the truth.
Right. Yes. And the struggles. Yeah. People were really going
The
through
struggle.
life. Yeah.
For sure. So you've been in the entertainment industry since childhood, I know. And looking back, what moments stand out to you as kind of the most defining, not just professionally, but personally, in terms of your growth and development?
Um, honestly, what comes to mind first is sort of when I stepped away from it all to be able to
Yeah.
digest it. When you grow up doing something, and that's all I've ever done and all I've ever known, you have to take a moment. And I was asked all the time, what would you have done if you weren't an actress? And it's like, well, that's the turmoil in my own head. I don't know. And,
Right.
what other interests are there? What other things are there? And because quite honestly, being an actor is not always you can't always like make it's not sustainable. Let's say, right? It can be gone at any moment.
Sure.
And I'm
Sure.
just one of the lucky few that I've been able to live a life um, around doing what I love. But I think stepping away from it to really see if that's what my path is or not, and to be able to
Mhm.
come back to it with a different kind of passion and a different kind of love and appreciation for it.
Yeah. What you said is so important because in the work that I do, I talk a lot about taking that pause. So many of us are not in the spotlight as you were publicly, but we do often find ourselves going down this path and then we feel sort of stuck in it because we don't know anything else, right? And it's kind of scary to lift your head up and say what else is out there when you don't know what else is out there, right? But this is what you know. And so that can be incredibly hard for women who have poured themselves into a career or a job or a role, where for them to suddenly wake up and say, is this really what I want with the rest of my life?
Yes. And that's, those are big
Yeah.
questions. And I'll say one thing
Yeah.
about any job in the world. I think if you stop and wonder, or you pivot and you change your career, people are say, good for you, like, congratulations that you realized you were more passionate doing something else. But in the
Mhm.
industry, there's a stigma, and it's that you couldn't get work, or you're irrelevant, or you can't get a job. And it's really unfortunate because it's an added pressure that shouldn't be there. So if you do want to pivot and you do want to do something else, and venture out and explore another avenue, or you know workplace, you really get judged for it. I find that so strange. I really do.
Yeah.
Because we have a number of people, like in the documentary, like Michael Bergen, for example. He found his passion in real estate, and he's very successful and
Mhm.
very happy.
Mhm.
And, there's a whole stigma of, well, because you failed at the other thing. But it's just, there's so much more to
Yeah.
people than one avenue.
For sure. And I think that's part of the story we tell ourselves, is that we'll be seen as a quote unquote failure if we shift, if we turn away, if we do something else, when really we're just building on, the success we've had and the lessons we've learned and transitioning to something new to pursue our purpose. So I agree with you. And I think it's important to destigmatize those transitions. And motherhood too, right? When people transition to have kids, and you and I are both girl moms, and I know you've been very open about how much your daughters mean to you. And, for women who are listening, I guess a lot of us share that common experience of feeling the guilt and the exhaustion and the, feeling like we're doing all the things, but are we doing enough? And we're always questioning, am I good enough at work? Am I a good enough mother? I would love to know, how has motherhood shaped the way kind of you see yourself, your priorities, or any other advice you would want to share
Well,
there?
it's interesting because I feel like I almost could be a stay-at-home mom and be happy and so fulfilled with that. But the truth is, they grow up, right? They grow up and they leave, and we're raising these people to set them free. And so I've been very fortunate, and I'm 100% single mother to both of the girls. So it was very important for me to spend that extra time and do double duty, as to make sure that they don't feel like they're missing anything. And at the same time, I want to show them that a woman on her own can do it. And I want to be a success story for them. And it's sort of where I'm at right now too, is because I need to go back to work. I need to figure out my next steps. And
Mhm.
it's really
Mhm.
difficult. It's a really difficult thing to do. And I just, every day I have to say to myself, I'm here. And that I have that going for me. I'm alive. I could do anything now. So I just have to remember to stay positive in that while excuse me, I explore, what the next chapter looks like. And it's, it's not
Absolutely.
easy. It's not easy at all, but my girls keep me going, and they give me motivation, and they give me purpose and strength behind all of it. So, I mean, I'm not sure if I answered your question. I kind of went off on
Mhm.
a different path
Yeah,
there.
no, I think it is purpose, right? I mean, there's different types of purpose, and I think motherhood is definitely up there
It
on the
is,
list.
and maybe not for everybody. Yeah, every mother
Right, right.
mothers differently, and I respect that as
Yes.
well, for sure. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's how you success to me is how it works for you. So say we pivot in our
Mhm.
career, yeah, we might get judged for that, but if we stay where we're unhappy, that's not success. Success is moving to
No.
where you're enjoying your life and whatever that is. And that's in motherhood, in work, in all of it, in life in general, in your relationships. You just have to drown out the noise and go after like what makes you happy. And then there's your success.
100%. I love that. I want to talk about for a minute, transition to the concept of resilience, because you have a certain take on resilience that deeply resonated with me. And I so appreciated when people tell you that, Nicole, you're so resilient. Your response is, well, I didn't have a
Right.
choice.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that statement is just so incredibly powerful, because I think it's very misunderstood. It really struck a chord with me because, a lot of times people think resilience is about being strong or being brave, but sometimes it's about surviving. It's about showing up and doing what has to be done. So I would love to hear more about your take on resilience and what it means to you, and how has that sort of evolved over time?
Yeah, it's very interesting because yeah, you hear people say, "Oh, you're so resilient, you're a warrior, you're winning." This isn't a battle. It really isn't. It isn't, and that then puts a stigma on people um who are don't go into remission. Right? Or it comes back as metastatic cancer. It's more than 1 in 3 women, it will come back. Um, so yeah, it's hard because we have no control over that. Um, the only thing you can do is live in the moment and help your
Mm.
body in any way that you can, controlling the controllables, and leaving the rest up to nature. I mean, it is what it is. This isn't something we can control. And so I think that um, just trying to be in the mindset of enjoying right now is all you can is that's the hardest part. That's the tough part. If you can do that, then you're winning. But yeah, that's a tough one because people say, "Oh, well, what else are you going to do except get up and fight?"
Mhm.
What,
Mhm.
and especially for my 13-year-old, like I don't want her to be in pain. That's just not an option for me for her to lose me this
Yeah.
early. This is too soon. Our story's not over, and
No.
so it gives me this like there's no option, and I just go forward like that. And no matter what we have to face, I'm going to face it, and we're going to do our best, and we're going to enjoy as much as we can while we're doing it. And but as far as being a warrior and resilient and all those things, if we don't really, there's not a choice. That's not. It's just not an option.
Yeah,
It's
it's not
not.
an option, right? And I would imagine it also helps you to get really crystal clear on your priorities in life.
It does. And it brings a sense of fearlessness too that I didn't
Mhm.
expect and that I very much appreciate because you realize you have nothing to lose. You realize that this journey can end at any moment. And did you do the things you wanted to do? Are you the person you wanted to be? And what have we been afraid of? What have we been holding back on? And all of those things become just wide open. At least for me, they just opened up and it was like, okay, I am not going to hate on my body for another second. It is getting me through this. I gained a lot of weight from the steroids that we're on. I blew up. It's interesting because when I started the journey in the treatment facility, you saw the people who were getting nauseous and losing a lot of weight, and then you saw the people like myself that we didn't have nausea and we just kept gaining weight and gaining weight, and we just kept getting bigger and bigger, and the other people kept getting more frail, and it was like, it's so interesting how every body is so different. So I refused to be upset with my body because it was fighting for me, and it gets up and it does so much for me every day that I took for granted, and all I did was criticize it for so many years when it was getting me up and letting me enjoy this life and live this and capable of living a beautiful life. And so that won't happen again. There's no more hating this body. There's more appreciating it.
There's such a beautiful lesson there for all women, right? We have one home, and to take care of it and honor it and treasure it and be thankful.
That's right. And it's your vessel. It's what you've been given, and it's it's how you treat it as well. So I really dove into being a lot more health conscious and doing all of the things, and I feel like on the outside, I look healthier than I did before my diagnosis. So strange, it's just interesting. And people will say, "Oh, you look so great. You're doing so great." Well, inside, there's a different story. Like, don't let the outer fool you. But yes, what I'm putting into my body spiritually, mentally, and physically by eating the right things, it does change. It changes everything. And I feel like the appreciation for my body also made it, makes it appear more beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I could encapsulate that and just package that up. Brought a tear to my eye. So beyond acting, Nicole, you stepped into the world of podcasting with Perfectly Twisted. It's a raw and real space, and I love listening to you on the show, where you share your own journey, your thoughts, your experiences in a real way that resonates with people. So tell us a little bit about what inspired you to start the podcast, and what has it meant for you to share your voice in this way?
Like, especially coming out of doing the documentary and me wanting to showcase everybody so that the world could get to know all these people, I felt like this was a good way for me to do that for myself. I feel like I've been very shy away from media. A lot of things that you would read if you were to look me up and read about me, it has nothing to do with like who I am, as a person. And I just feel like there's never really been, an opportunity for me to let people really get to know who I am and, my stories and what I've been through and my thoughts. And so Dave, my co-host, and I, we just toyed with the idea and we said, let's give it a shot. I didn't know if I was going to be comfortable with it. And, I fell in love with doing it. It's just such a fun escape and it's a good time. Yeah, I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great show. And you've lived so many lives: an actress, a businesswoman, podcast host, mother, advocate. And I know your story is still being written. There's much more to come. What's next for you, Nicole?
Good. That's the question of the hour. I'm not sure. And I feel like the world is really open to me right now. I feel like I could do whatever I put my mind to at this moment. I just have to figure out what that is. I honestly do.
Yeah.
I will shoot a Lifetime, a part in the Lifetime movie coming up at the end of the month, which is very interesting, the timing of that coming up, because I wasn't sure if acting was going to be where I was going. The competition and
In the
to
card.
jump back in it is so difficult. And so I did an audition at home and booked the part. And it's amazing because it's the Courtney Stodden story, and it's a female empowerment. I just have a small part where I play her therapist in rehab. So I'll do a day on it. But for me, that's so cool to be the therapist
Very
in
cool.
something and to support her. I really love her as a person, and her story is really hits home for myself and for anybody that's been through sexual abuse.
Mhm.
And I think that I think it's sort of maybe pulling me back in, saying, well, wait a minute, because it's such a good vehicle. It's such and yeah, so I get to go do that and see how I feel and how my body feels, and and doing it because I'm also on a ton of new medication and immunotherapy and all of these things. So I'm
Sure.
adjusting to that. I get really tired very quickly. So it'll take me a few months to get acclimated to these, and then let's see. Is spending a day on set, that'll be very interesting to see if this sparks a flame in me.
Incredible. And what an amazing place to be is, the world is your oyster. There's so many opportunities, and sometimes there's such beauty in saying, well, I'm not sure what's next for me, but being open and curious and exploring. I think for so many high achieving women, that's scary. It's a scary place not to know, not to have all the answers, not to have, the rest of our life mapped out. But I think there's such beauty and power in that.
Yeah, and you have to really learn your patience because you have to let life unfold, and I'm a Capricorn. I do things right away. I'm not much of a procrastinator, and I want everything to happen right now, right now, right now. So to have to
Yeah.
really practice on letting life unfold and letting things happen in their time is something I'm juggling
Yeah,
right now. Yeah.
of course. And trusting the process, it can be very difficult for
Yes.
us. Absolutely. Nicola, I would just want to say you're extraordinary, not just because you had no choice but to be resilient, but because you continue to choose to show up, to fight, to inspire. And I want to thank you so much for sharing so openly and for really reminding us all about what really matters. For anyone who's listening and wants to follow you, your journey, your podcast, where can they find
Well,
you?
the podcast is perfectlytwistedpodcast.com. And I'm on social media, verified accounts. Instagram is _Nicole_Eggert, but it's verified. So that's me, because there are some tricksters out there. And
Mhm.
on Facebook, it's Nicole Eggert verified. And TikTok, it's Nicole Eggert official. So those are all the places. I'm there.
Perfect. And I want to thank you so much again for being here. I mean, you are truly a force. You're a beautiful soul inside and out. And I really cannot wait to see where your next chapter leads you. And we wish
Oh,
you
I
all the
really
best.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is Gia signing off with gratitude for your time and energy. Our mic drops, but the movement continues. Until next time, your next chapter is waiting. Take care.
That concludes another empowering episode of Your Future Starts Now. Before we wrap up, I want to thank this incredible community of high-achieving women. Your energy, resilience, and commitment to growth are the driving force behind what we do. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate it, leave a review, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Your feedback fuels our mission to empower high-achieving women just like you. And of course, share Your Future Starts Now with the extraordinary women in your life who are also on a journey of healing and empowerment. Connect with us on social media, share your thoughts, let us know what topics you'd like to explore in future episodes. Stay connected on Instagram at Gia Lacqua. I encourage you to carry the energy of this conversation into your day and keep on supporting the incredible women around you. Until next time, remember, your next chapter is waiting.